The pre-dawn hours of October the 16th, 1946 brought an unsettling quiet to Nuremberg. Within the austere stone walls of the Palace of Justice, the verdict delivered by the world's powers was about to be enacted. 10 of the Third Reich's most powerful and feared figures, the very architects of global conflict and unparalleled atrocities, were marched toward the execution platform. But history often concludes too neatly, ending with the swift sound of a breaking rope. The grim truth of the following hours and days is a far more desperate and compelling narrative. It reveals a chilling dilemma faced by the Allied command, a problem that resonated decades later in 2011 when American forces dealt with the remains of Osama bin Laden. The core question was hauntingly simple. What do you do with the bodies of the most universally despised criminals on Earth? The execution night was already descending into disarray. Of the 11 men condemned to die by hanging, one had successfully evaded the hangman's noose. Just a few hours before the scheduled time, Hermann Göring, Hitler's nominated successor and the massive former chief of the Luftwaffe, fatally bit down on a glass vial of potassium cyanide he had kept concealed. The guard only noticed a sudden physical collapse, rushing into the cell to find the leader writhing, a thin layer of foam already covering his lips. He died not by the official judgment of his enemies, but by his own calculated action, a final insolent gesture of autonomy. His suicide immediately convulsed the prison routine, demanding immediate security action for his corpse, yet the execution timetable was ordered to proceed without delay. The individual responsible for carrying out the executions was Master Sergeant John C. Woods. He presented himself with an aura of detached military competence, claiming extensive experience with over 100 successful executions. However, Woods concealed a vital fact. He had grossly exaggerated his professional history and skill as an executioner. This lie, coupled with severe flaws in the scaffold's design, guaranteed horrifying outcomes. The structure of the gallows was fundamentally incorrect for the weights and heights of the prisoners. Specifically, the trapdoor was built too small, and the crucial drop distance for a humane death was miscalculated. Consequently, the fall was insufficient to ensure a clean fracture of the neck, the desired legal result, and many of the doomed men slammed into the edge of the undersized trap as they fell, resulting in prolonged, suffocating deaths by strangulation. Joachim von Ribbentrop, the first man brought into the chamber, delivered a final statement where he explicitly called for German unity and global peace. He swung from the rope for a grueling 10 minutes before life finally left him. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, a man who had casually signed off on the deaths of millions, struggled violently against the rope for a staggering 24 minutes. Keitel, still projecting a chilling military correctness in his uniform and boots, faced the scaffold, stating calmly, "I follow now my sons, all for Germany." Julius Streicher, the deeply repulsive anti-Semitic propagandist, maintained his defiance to the very end, screaming "Heil Hitler" as he climbed the steps and yelling out his wife's name just before the floor dropped. The Allied physician on standby was compelled to verify death on the swinging bodies repeatedly, using a stethoscope to confirm cardiac arrest before giving the official declaration, drawing the macabre process out for hours. A journalist present later described the executions as a ghastly, sickening spectacle. It felt less like the measured hand of justice and more like brutal, visceral retaliation. But once the 10 bodies were finally settled side by side on the gymnasium floor, their faces veiled by cloth, the true complex dilemma for the Allied commanders began. Outside the facility, curious individuals were already congregating. Drawn by rumor and morbid fascination, the Allied High Command was seized by one paramount fear: that the burial sites of these war criminals would instantly transform into dangerous political shrines. They foresaw generations of neo-Nazi sympathizers making pilgrimages, leaving tributes, and ultimately turning mass murderers into potent, venerated martyrs. They understood the power of a symbolic resting place. They were keenly aware of how Vladimir Lenin's mausoleum had become a central point of secular devotion, and how sacred relics had been revered across Europe for centuries. They resolved that this outcome was absolutely unacceptable. These men, who had foolishly aspired to a 1,000-year Reich, could not be granted even a small plot of ground to claim as their own, not even in death. The uncompromising directive was issued. All 11 corpses and every physical vestige of their existence had to be completely and permanently erased from the face of the planet. What ensued was a meticulously orchestrated, highly classified operation of permanent obliteration. In the deep of the night, the 10 executed men, alongside the body of Göring, were clinically stripped. They were photographed one final time, stark and unnerving, to serve as the definitive clinical record that the sentences had been carried out. Then their identities were symbolically cancelled. For transportation, each man was assigned a random American pseudonym. The once famous Hermann Göring was anonymously labelled George Munger. Alfred Rosenberg, the chief Nazi ideologue, became Bob Barker, fake US. Army dog tags were carefully manufactured and placed on each body, ensuring that any future inquiry into the remains would lead only to a manufactured American identity. Around 4 in the morning, 2 military trucks started their engines. The 11 bodies, encased in plain mattress covers, were loaded inside and concealed under heavy canvas. With armed security, the secret convoy began a 2-hour journey south, moving quietly across the devastated spectral landscape of post-war Bavaria. Their destination was an absolute secret, a municipal crematorium located within a Munich cemetery known as Ostfriedhof. It is here that the narrative reaches its most profound, terrible irony. The convoy arrived at the very same crematorium complex that had been routinely used for years to dispose of the victims of nearby concentration camps. The fires that had consumed those they persecuted would now consume them. The entire perimeter was secured by American soldiers equipped with machine guns. No one was permitted access or egress. The final stage of the annihilation began. Methodically, one by one, the bodies of the highest Nazi command were committed to the flames. The cremation was an act of final physical destruction, but it represented a crucial symbolic end. Every personal item found on them was likewise destroyed. Göring's immense distinctive gold Nazi badge, a core symbol of his former authority, was melted down into a meaningless, formless lump of metal. Medals decorated with the swastika were aggressively defaced and pounded into unrecognizability before being thrown away. Their bespoke uniforms were not simply burned in one place. They were meticulously sliced into small pieces and distributed to various incinerators across Germany to prevent any attempt at future collection. Their personal correspondence was reduced to ash. In a bizarre and unauthorized footnote to the procedure, it was later confirmed that an American military pathologist present at the cremations had secretly extracted small samples of brain tissue from the corpses before their final destruction, acting out of a dark, personal medical curiosity. Yet the Allies knew that even dust could become a focus for worship. A mere handful of ash could be sanctified. Therefore, the last phase of the plan was the most critical action. Early on the morning of October 17th, a small team of American officers drove to a secluded tributary of the Isar River. They carried the 11 identical cardboard boxes containing the final remains. On the riverbank, they performed no ceremony. Instead, the soldiers used their rifle butts to violently smash the containers, breaking them into pieces. Then they scattered the dust and the broken containers into the swift-moving water. An unnamed soldier present at the scene was later quoted as saying, "Let the fish eat them." As the last remaining grey particles dissolved into the current, the physical presence of the Third Reich's architects was finally and permanently wiped out. To ensure the secrecy, a complex counterintelligence operation was immediately launched. False burial documents were created and officially registered. The international media was deliberately told that the ashes of the war criminals had been buried at sea to thwart any attempt at locating the site. For nearly 50 years, these fabricated documents remained classified, and the true account of the Munich crematorium and the Isar River disposal was known only to a tiny select group of men. The full truth only began to surface in the 1990s when the official records were finally released. This secret process, written in the ashes of the world's greatest war trial, became the grim template for the future. In 2011, when US forces faced the problem of disposing of Osama bin Laden's body, they executed the same Nuremberg solution, a burial at sea, leaving no marker, no tomb, and no possibility of a shrine. The ultimate irony remains the most fitting conclusion. These were men who lived obsessed with securing everlasting glory, dreaming of monuments and empires that would endure for 1,000 years. They desperately wanted to be remembered as heroes, legends and martyrs. Instead, they were granted nothing: no grave, no memorial, no ceremony, no physical trace. Their final, humiliating legacy was to be erased from existence so thoroughly that their last resting place was the digestive system of a fish, dissolved into an indifferent river. They became quite literally nothing at all. These are the kinds of hidden histories we are dedicated to uncovering. If you want to ensure you don't miss the next journey into the dark secrets of the past, be sure to subscribe.